For the last 50 years or so, agriculture has seen some absolutely incredible progress. But here's the thing. What if the road that got us here is kind of reaching a dead end? What if it won't get us where we need to go for the next 50? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a whole new vision for farming, one that's designed to be more profitable and more sustainable. So let's get into it.
It really all boils down to this one simple but powerful question. What if doing the right thing for the environment was also the absolute best thing for your bottom line? I mean, it's a huge question, right? And honestly, the answer could change the entire game.
And this is really the core of the whole idea. For way too long, we've been told that it's an either-or choice. Either you're a great steward of the land, or you run a profitable business. But what if that's just wrong? What if that's a false choice? What if the two are actually completely linked?
Okay, so why the urgency? Why do we need this new vision right now? Well, because the strategies that served us so well for the last 5 decades, the ones that were all about maximizing yield above all else, they're starting to show their limits. We're hitting a wall. To get to that next frontier, we've got to rethink pretty much everything.
So the mission here is really twofold. Part 1, make farms more profitable. That's a given. And part 2, which is just as important, is to prove to everyone, once and for all, that you can be an amazing farmer and a great environmentalist at the exact same time.
All right, so where do we even start with such a huge idea? Well, we start from the ground up, and I mean that literally. The very first step is to completely change how we think about and measure the soil itself.
You're going to hear this phrase a few times. It is time. Think of it as a rallying cry, a real wake-up call. And the very first thing we need to snap out of is an old-school way of thinking that honestly dates all the way back to the moldboard plow.
So check this out. The old way of trusting soil, the acre-furrow slice, was just a surface-level view. We're talking about the top few inches. But the new vision? Man, we're going deeper, a lot deeper. We're talking about the entire upper 2-foot profile, because that's where the roots actually live and do all their work. It's the difference between guessing and truly knowing.
And here's the next big shift, and this one is a total game changer. For decades, we've been relying on these generic statewide averages for nutrient data. But let's be real. Is your farm average? No way. It's time to start building a database based on your specific fields and your actual harvest yields.
I mean, just think about it. How could some number from a statewide report possibly know your unique management style, your tillage choices, your nutrient program? It can't. When you build your own database, you get this incredibly precise feedback loop. You can finally start making decisions based on your reality, not somebody else's average.
And this idea of precision, it's not a set-it-and-forget-it thing you do before planting. Nope. This is about managing nutrients dynamically all season long. We're moving away from just making a plan and hoping it works, and shifting towards actively managing things in real time.
Okay, another it is time moment. After you harvest what's left behind in the soil. It's not just dirt. It's often leftover mobile nutrients. And you know what that is? That's money you spent that's just sitting there, unused. It's an economic loss. And it's a potential pollutant that could harm the environment. We have to start keeping track of that.
This all ties into a framework they call Methods of Management, or MOM for short. The best way to think about it is like a GPS for your farm. You wouldn't just look at a map once and then drive, right? No, you use a GPS for real-time adjustments. That's MOM, constantly making in-season tweaks to optimize your route and avoid problems.
So what does this actually look like on the farm? Well, it's a cycle. First, you inventory what's left over after harvest. Then you use tools like cover crops to capture those valuable nutrients. Throughout the season, you're conducting tests on tissues and soil. And then you adjust your plan in real time. It's a constant loop of learning and getting smarter.
And when you talk about nutrients, there's one big one we have to zero in on: nitrogen. It is absolutely time to get better at managing it. Why? Because it's one of your biggest expenses, and at the same time, it's one of the biggest environmental challenges we face. It just makes sense to manage it as precisely as possible.
And look, this goes way beyond just saving money. In a state like Illinois, for example, nitrogen is one of the top 2 pollutants in their surface water. That is a huge deal, leading to things like algal blooms that are terrible for wildlife. So getting this right isn't just good for business. It is absolutely critical for everyone.
So, who's going to solve these massive challenges? Let me tell you, it's not going to be someone in a lab coat 1,000 miles away. The future is on farm. The solutions are going to come from you, the farmer, using your data in your fields.
The basic principle here is actually pretty simple. It's called nutrients by removal. Think of your soil like a bank account. Every time you harvest a crop, you're making a withdrawal. And if you want to keep that bank account healthy and productive, you have to make a deposit to replace exactly what you took out. No more, no less.
And here it is again. It is time to focus on the questions farmers are asking in their own fields, using their own data. This is a call to arms, really. The most valuable research isn't happening at a university plot somewhere. It's happening on your land, providing real-world answers that actually work.
And the payoff for this approach is huge. You get answers that are tailor-made for your farm, your soil, your way of doing things. You're not just following some generic recipe. You're writing your own. You're building a system that's perfectly customized to your operation.
And this really is what it all comes down to. This quote says it perfectly. Change is coming to agriculture. That is a fact. The only question is, are we going to be the ones leading that change, or are we going to be forced to follow somebody else's rules?
So that's the final thought I want to leave you with. We have a roadmap here to a future that's better for our farms, for our families, and for our planet. The only question left is, are we brave enough to take the wheel and lead the way?